It's time for Recipe of the Day. When it comes to having your bar stocked, say for this holiday season, making your own simple syrup is the way to go. You can totally buy it in the bar section of your grocery store or at the liquor store, but it is super easy to make. And I will honestly say that I do buy it quite often, but just as often I realize I need it or want some for a cocktail or something and I don't have any, and then I just make it really quickly. The other great thing about making your own is that you can flavor it with whatever you'd like. You can use extracts, but you can also just put in some kind of herbs. It's really nice with rosemary in it. Basil's really good. You can add some lemon rind in there and that'll flavor it. I guess I should back up and say what simple syrup is in case you don't actually know. So it is just a simple syrup made out of just water and sugar. And it is used in places where you want to make sure that sugar is fully dissolved. So in this case, it's in liquid form. And so you're not going to end up with those little grains from it not being dissolved thoroughly. You know what I mean? So if you're making lemonade or something, you can go lemon juice and water and sugar, but then sometimes the sugar doesn't fully dissolve. This way it will because the sugar has already been dissolved in warm water and then you don't have to worry about it dissolving into other things. It's also great when you don't want to add a lot of flavors. I know I was talking about flavors you can add to this, but if you're making a drink or a dessert or something and you could add a syrup, a liquid sweetener to it, but you don't want to add extra flavor. For instance, I really like my margarita to be very, very limey and not have a lot of other flavors. So I don't add a honey to that or agave nectar even. I want the really, really straight up simple syrup in mine. Okay, to make this, you're going to get out a small saucepan and you are adding 1 cup of sugar and 1 cup of water. It's equal parts sugar and water. And you heat that over medium heat, stirring occasionally. It'll look cloudy for a while. That's because the sugar hasn't yet dissolved. But then once the sugar is all dissolved, it will suddenly be clear. And that is when you take it off the heat. You don't need to boil it or anything. You just need it to become fully clear. Then you let it cool down and pour it into a jar or a resealable container and you store it in the fridge up to a month. It keeps for up to a month. Now, if you were adding any of those flavorings that I talked about, if it's an extract, you could just add that at the very end to taste after it's cool even. It'll mix in and you can get it just right. If you were infusing it with something, you would do that right from the beginning. So when you're adding the sugar and the water, you would put in some fresh mint leaves or some rosemary, basil, that lemon rind, anything like that goes in there. And then it's in there the whole time that it's warming and the sugar's dissolving. And then you can leave that in there even while it cools. And you could even put the whole thing into the fridge and let it cool for longer. Then remove those bits. You can strain them through a fine mesh sieve, remove any chunks from it, and then store it. Now, it won't keep as long depending on what you've had in there with it. So if you've used something other than just the water and sugar, you only keep it for a week in the fridge. And that is it. I will put the link to the simple syrup recipe in the show notes for this podcast episode, or you can head to cookthestory.com/ROTD and get it there. Everything there is arranged by date, so it's helpful to know that today is December 12th of 2024. I also post the recipe of the day link every day in our Facebook group. So if you always want to see what I'm making, what I'm talking about, get great ideas for what you can be making this time of year on this day, head to the Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/recipeotd. I look forward to seeing you there. I'm Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, the all new chicken cookbook. And from this podcast, Recipe of the Day, I hope you have a great day. Let's get cooking.